Welcome to Desktop Central training program. So today's training is about patch management. I want to thank everyone for joining the webinar in your busy schedule. Let me introduce myself. My name is Sriram and I'm associated with Desktop Central for past 10 years. As you are aware, we are going to see how patch management works in Desktop Central. So when it comes to Desktop Central, the first thing is, what is Desktop Central? As you can see, Desktop Central is a unified endpoint management solution that helps in managing servers, laptops, desktops, smartphones, and tablets from a central location. As you can see, recently, we have done a lot of changes and we have been moved as a unified endpoint management solution. So when you go with Unified Endpoint Management Edition, you'll be getting Desktop Central features plus OS deployment features and even modern management with Windows 10 and Mac management plus MDM. So these are the additional benefits which are added to Unified Endpoint Management Solution. So once you get UEM, all these features will be added to a single console. As I've told you earlier, we support desktops and laptops and even POS devices when it comes to Desktop Central. So here comes the training schedule. Let's have an overview of our training schedule, where it's a 7-week series and we are in week 1. And all these sessions will be recorded and it will be available in the below mentioned website, which is www.desktopcentral.com/training.html. And all the registered participants will receive the recorded training video via an email as well. Before we start the training, I want to share with you the agenda for the day. So first, we're going to see what is patch management and how it works in the overview, followed by the architecture. From my support experience, I will be sharing 4 scenarios which would comprehensively cover the entire patch automation process and its components. And we'll also see how to test and deploy the patches to the test and production environment. And we'll also see how to deploy the patches manually to multiple sites as well as through an automated patch deployment. Because every time deploying patch manually to multiple sites might be a tedious job for an administrator. Let's see how to overcome the situation through automated patch deployment task. There might be some 0-day situations, like 0-day critical patches, where you need to install those patches immediately to the production environment. So in this case, we'll see how the 0-day critical deployment will help you in managing those patches. And for a better understanding, let me share with you some of the interesting scenarios which I came across while interacting with the customers. At last, conclusion of the session with most frequently asked questions with answers. During the training session, if you come across any questions, feel free to use the chat option to chat with our expert team. We will also collect all the questions raised during the session, and they will also be published for the larger audience view. Supported operating system. Desktop Central supports patches for all 3 flavors of operating system: Windows, Mac, and Linux. In Windows, we support all operating systems starting from Windows XP till Windows 10. And when it comes to Linux, we support all major operating systems like Red Hat, CentOS, Ubuntu, Debian. We offer support for 1,000+ applications, and 350+ third-party applications are supported when it comes to Desktop Central. So here comes the major part, which is the Desktop Central architecture. As you all know, Desktop Central is an on-premise solution where Desktop Central server can be installed in your local network or DMZ. I presume everybody knows about DMZ. It is where you can place your server in a secured hosting so that the client machines can reach the server in a secure way. And you might wonder how you're going to manage the machines in the remote locations, like in different locations. Using Desktop Central, You can manage machines on both LAN as well as wide area networks. When you push a patch to the machines in LAN, those machines will download the patches from Desktop Central Server. And when you manage machines in WAN, wide area network, you can utilize the distribution server feature to deploy the patches to the machines available in WAN. Let's go with an example over here. If you have concerns with bandwidth and if you manage more number of machines in a remote site, here is where a distribution server comes into picture. So when a patch task is created, the machines which are located in the remote office will not reach the server to download the patches. Only the distribution server will reach the Desktop Central Server, and it downloads the patches and distributes to the machines which are available in the remote office. So this feature will help you to manage the bandwidth efficiently. Users on the go, like roaming users who very frequently move from one location to another, can be managed easily using the Desktop Central product. And to achieve this, if you're managing Desktop Central Server in LAN or in DMZ, you can enable NAT in your firewall, or you can utilize the forwarding server feature, the secured gateway, which will help to communicate the agent securely. So what is a forwarding server? If you wish to manage the roaming users in a more secure way, then you can utilize the forwarding server feature. So this acts as a secured gateway server between the roaming agents and the Desktop Central Server. Any communications from the roaming agent to the Desktop Central Server will be routed through the forwarding server. So this is the Desktop Central architecture. And let's move on to the next important part, which is the agent installation. So once the server is installed, the next foremost thing is to push the agents to the client machine. Agent should be installed in order to manage those client machines. That is the first and foremost thing which we should do post the server installation. An agent installation can be done through multiple ways, as you can see here, either using a Windows GPO or a startup script. If you're using Active Directory in Windows Network, you should be able to leverage that by deploying agents using group policy. From the console, you can even push the agent to the client machine. While pushing the agent from console, I would recommend you to ensure that Desktop Central have access to admin dollar of the client computers. If this access is not available, you might end up with an error message, network path not found, and will also attach the knowledge base details next to the error message. So you have a step-by-step process over there in order to troubleshoot from your end. And at last, you can even download and install the agent manually on the client machine, which is also possible. So here comes the 90-minute refresh policy. So what is a 90-minute refresh policy? Desktop Central architecture is scalable to manage different network and even larger networks up to 20,000 machines. This is possible because of the refresh policy we use. Let me explicit this in simple terms. Desktop Central agent would be contacting the server at every 90 minutes. This is called as the agent refresh cycle. And this feature ensures that all computers in the network contact the server periodically. So we ensure two important factors here. The network is not choked by the agent communication, meaning bandwidth is not disturbed due to the agent server communication, and the performance of the server is not affected at any time. Desktop Central Server has an intelligence to endure systematic streamlined communication from all agents at regular intervals. Let's go with a better example here. In a network of 90 computers, for each minute, one computer will reach out to Desktop Central Server. So let's imagine for 900 computers, for a minute, 10 computers will reach the server, and for a larger network, like 9,000 machines, 100 machines will reach the Desktop Central server. Using this feature, we ensure a hassle-free communication from agent to the server. If you guys come across any questions or if you have any questions, please use the chat option to chat with our expert team. So here comes the components involved when it comes to Desktop Central. As you can see, there are 3 essential components and 4 optional components. So you should be aware of the server, agent, and the notification server, which are the essential components. And you might wonder, what is this optional component? So by now, you should be aware of the distribution server, forwarding server, and the basic language pack. What is a failover server? So let me concise about the failover server here. Failover server brings in an additional server which actively monitors the primary server and takes over the operation when the primary server fails. This feature helps you in eliminating the downtime in your business. So where if the primary server goes down, immediately this failover server will come into picture and it will help you in your business running time. So here comes the next important part, which is Azure and AWS management. There might be multiple scenarios why you wish to install the server in cloud. If you manage more roaming users, having the server in cloud will be an advantage. So in this scenario, you can place the Desktop Central server in AWS or Azure. And it's a cost-effective solution. So if you're placing the device in cloud, you can avoid the hardware infrastructure and maintenance cost for the infrastructure. If you have a distribution server for cloud in a network, which will contact the AWS or Azure instance, and your clients can be managed more efficiently. You can also manage roaming users via your distribution server. And if you host your application servers on cloud, they can be managed directly from Azure or AWS network. Desktop Central will be on cloud very soon, so it will comprehensively manage all of these above mentioned features effectively. I would also like to let you know that we are on cloud when it comes to our ManageEngine product, another ManageEngine product, which is Patch Manager Plus. So now we can see the ports involved when it comes to Desktop Central management. We would recommend you to open the ports shown here in order to manage specific features with Desktop Central. Agent server communication, which happens in port 8020, and server to agent notification happens in port 8027 TCP. For an example, voice and video chat. One of the features associated with the product works in UDP 8443. If it is a Windows firewall which is blocking the ports, we will notify you in the home screen and it can be added as an exception. Agent server communication happens securely on port 8383. What happens if this specific port is blocked on the server machine? Any patch or software deployment task you push from the server will not get completed. To know more information about the ports, please visit the below mentioned website, which is www.desktopcentral.com/ports. So before we get into the important workflow, I'm going to give you an information about how Microsoft suggests their customers to deploy the patches. Every month, second Tuesday will be considered as Patch Tuesday by Microsoft, and you guys are very aware of those information. During this time, a lot of patches will be released, and based on the used cases, a lot of customers had no clue on which updates are required for the client machines. Based on the operating system, I'm going to give a brief note on which update is mostly required for Windows 7, 8, and Windows 10. And when it comes to Windows 7 and 8, these are the major updates required. Security only updates. An update that has all the new security updates for a given month. And we also have options with security monthly quality rollup. They include both security and reliability updates that were packaged together. The monthly roll-up addresses new security issues and will proactively include updates that were released in past. Delta, Cumulative, and Feature Pack, these are the major updates required for Windows 10. Delta is nothing but an update that has all the new security updates for a given month. Cumulative update is which includes both security and reliability updates that are packaged together. The cumulative update addresses new security issues and will proactively include updates that were released in past. And I would like to let you know that Microsoft has already informed their customers that they're going to stop the patching support for Windows 7. So from next year, you won't be getting any update for Windows 7. We have also got a provision here in Desktop Central to migrate from Windows 7 to Windows 10. So you can very well make use of that option and you can migrate the operating system to Windows 10, which is also possible. So here comes the feature pack. So as you all know, in a year, like twice the feature pack will be released. Like for every 6 months, new feature pack will be released. So the recent feature pack which was released is Windows 10 1903, which we have started supporting in Desktop Central. So you can very well make use of these options to update the feature packs in your environment. And here comes the important part, like what Microsoft suggests their customers. So before deploying a patch to the production environment, what should be done? So the patches should be tested in your pilot environment. And then once the patches are successfully tested, then the patches should be pushed to the production environment. It can even create multiple stages of deployment using Desktop Central. So we normally adapt the information from Microsoft and we suggest our customers with the test and approve feature. We'll also see more information about test and approve in the coming slides. And this is nothing but the full patch approach. So whenever Microsoft release patches to your environment, what they suggest or what they do exactly is they will test those patches in their environment and they will test all the required patches. It is not just a critical patch or a security update or a roll-up or a feature pack. They will test all the required patches for the environment. I've seen most of the customers, what they do is they don't deploy non-critical updates or non-security updates, or they won't deploy any basic or normal updates. They'll only go for critical updates. So in this case, based on the image shown over here, this could be a problem in your environment. So if you cannot deploy the non-security updates on the first week, no problem about that. In Desktop Central, we have options to stage your deployment. You can very well make sure you can create multiple tasks to deploy these updates. So here comes the patch management architecture. So when a patch is released, it will be available in the vendor site, and a crawler team repeatedly probes the internet to draw vulnerability patch information from the vendor site. And once the download is completed, the patches will be tested in our environment. And it's a basic testing which involves whether the patch can successfully be installed, a compatibility check, and the applicability of the patches will be tested during this process. And then it will be published to the Central Patch Repository. Desktop Central Server subscribes to Central Patch Repository to periodically download the vulnerability database. And once this process is done, the client machine should be scanned to identify the missing patches. After identifying the missing patches, Desktop Central Server directly downloads the request patches from the vendor side. So here comes the objective for today's webinar. So I've come up with a scenario over here to make it more understandable for customers. To explain the patch model in a better way, I've taken this objective. So here are the enterprise level best practices for setting up patch management. We can see how to scan the machines and test the patches in non-production machines. And once the testing is done, let's see how to approve those tested patches to the production environment. And after approval, we can see how to deploy those patches to the production environment, which is going to be a more important work. And to make the deployment easier, let's have a look on how to create the automate patch deployment task. And we'll also see how to deploy these patches on a periodic basis. And we have also got major feature update in the latest build, and I'm also going to share those information with you. And at last, we'll have a look at creating reports. And to explain my objective in a better manner, based on Microsoft's suggestion, I've taken a live example here. John, one of our loyal customers who is managing hotels in multiple locations, are managing over 20,000 computers in his network, which is spread across the globe, where he manages multiple remote offices in different locations. And by now, his requirement is to test and deploy which patches are released by last month to all his hotels on a periodic basis. Once the deployment is done, John should share the report to Peter, who is his IT manager. So let's see how John and team achieve this objective using Desktop Central. So for that, I'm going to take you to the Desktop Central console. So here comes the Desktop Central console. Till now, if you guys have any questions, please use the chat option to chat with our expert team. So this is how the Desktop Central console looks like. So I've logged in as Jonathan, who is the administrator for this account. And the first step over here is to configure the proxy setting. So once the server is installed, before installing an agent, we should configure the proxy settings. So here under patch settings, we have proxy settings option available. You might wonder why you need to configure the proxy. The main reason for configuring the proxy server is Desktop Central should contact the central patch repository to update the vulnerability database, as well as to download the patches from the vendor site. Proxy configuration should be enabled. Also, please confirm that patchdb.manageengine.com is open to download the vulnerability database. So we have multiple options to configure the proxy. Either you can go with a manual option, so where you can put up a username and password, or if you want to go with a direct connection, we have those options too. And once we have configured the proxy, the next important step is the patch database setting. So when it comes to Desktop Central, we have made everything automated in order to reduce the administrative work, because administrator has much more jobs to do than scheduling and deploying everything on a daily basis. So what we have done here is we have made everything automated and looks more easier for our administrators. So here you can come up and you can choose what type of update you need. So what type of updates should be shown to your environment. I want to see only security updates. I can very well come up over here and I can choose it. Only those updates will be shown as missing for me. And I can also put up a schedule over here. So once I put up a schedule over here, on a daily basis, your server will reach the central patch repository and it collects the information. It downloads the vulnerability database. So with this information, we'll be able to get what are all the new patches which are released. So you can very well use this option to manage your download for database. And the first thing we're going to do in our objective is the agent installation. So till now, we have installed the server, we've configured the proxy, and we have configured the patch database setting. And now we're going to install the agent. So what exactly happens here when it comes to the agent installation? So you can just come up to the scope of management. You can come here with computers, add computers, and you can go ahead and add the credentials from here. When it comes to Desktop Central, we manage both domains as well as work group at the same time. Even multiple domain and work group can be managed more easily. So once you add the domain credentials here, we'll be able to identify the machines present in that domain. and you can choose those machines and you can click on install. So you don't need any other third-party tool to push the agents to the client machine. It's going to be a more simpler way. You can just add the credentials here and you can push the agents to the client machine, a simple process. So what exactly happens in the background is we remotely connect to the machine and we copy the installable files. And once it is done, those files will automatically invoke the agent installation on the client machine. So by this way, we'll be able to reach back to the desktop central server. And this way, the machines will communicate. And you can find those machines here. So as you can see, whenever there is a failure when it comes to the agent installation, we will put up a notification, network path not found, which I told you earlier. Whenever there is an issue between the desktop central server, if the desktop central server cannot reach the client machine, you will get up this error message. We have also launched the knowledge base for these issues. So you can just utilize this and you can fix up the problem. And here comes the agent settings. So post the agent deployment, if you wish to perform any activities like an inventory scan or a patch scan, or whenever a deployment is happening, I don't want to disturb my users about the deployment. I just want to make it more silent. We do have such options available when it comes to Desktop Central. As we are talking about the remote offices and IP scope, those part comes here where you can very well find those information. And here comes the next important part, which is scanning up the missing patches. So how this part exactly works here. So when it comes to the scanning part, we have entirely automated the process. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take you back to the presentation to give you more information about the scanning process. So here comes the patch DB sync and scanning process. As I've told you earlier, on a daily basis, your Desktop Central server will reach the central patch repository and it initiates a sync. So we have made the entire process automated here. Once the synchronization process is done, by the next 90 minutes, any machine which is reaching the server will be scanned automatically. So right from sync, scan, both processes are automated over here. So just you need to create a scan only once and automatically it will scan the machines on a daily basis. And once the scanning part is done, the next important part here is to find the missing patches. So where you can find the missing patches, you can just come up here under patch management and you can find a greater information over here. So I'll tell you what are all those information. As I've told you about the latest build which we have released. So these are the new updates which we have got for you. We have made a lot of detailed view information and made a lot of changes when it comes to the deployment policy. So here comes the part where you can just go to the missing patches view and it gives you a clear information about how many patches are required for your environment. So you can just come up here, choose these missing patches and you can install it. I'm not going to do that now because that is not my objective. I need to test these patches in my test environment before deploying it to the production environment. For that, you need to click on deployment and here comes the test and approve. Why we always recommend our customers to test and then push those patches to the production environment. Imagine if you have a banking application or a premium application installed in your production environment. Installing the patches to the production environment without testing might create a lot of issues like BSOD, or it can just like that corrupt the banking application, or it can even reboot the machines. So to avoid all these and to eliminate the downtime in your business, we always recommend you to deploy the patches to your test environment first, and then it can be pushed to the production environment. As you can see, the test environment can be managed for all three flavors, Windows, Mac, and Linux. So you can come up here and you can create a custom group. So what is a custom group? Custom group is a unique feature in Desktop Central, which helps you in creating a group of specific users and computers. So this group will help you in define the specific group of machines or users at the time of any frequent patch deployment or other requirements in DC. So for better understanding, so using up this custom group, you can create a set of group, you can add certain machines to the group, and in future, if you need a report for those specific machines, or if you just wish to push patches to those specific machines, you can very well create a custom group over here. I have already created a custom group for my test environment, which I'm going to choose it over here. So which is patch test. And here I can very well choose the updates which I wish to deploy in my test environment. So deploying patches in test environment is the mandatory thing if you really ask me, because only when you test the patches over here, it is not going to cause any harm in your production environment. You can test both Microsoft as well as third-party application, which is possible. And you can even choose the updates, what type of update you wish to test, and whether you need a specific application to be tested, or if you wish to exclude a specific application. All those things can be done over here using up this part. And we have also got the deployment policy. So here is where you're going to choose by when the patches should get deployed, when the reboot should happen, or by what time the process should be initiated. All those things can be done over here. We're going to see more about the deployment policy at last. And here comes the notification part, like how many patches have been successfully deployed, what is the success percentage, and everything can be sent as a detailed report to your email address. And one great thing when it comes to test and approve is we have automated even the test approval process. Not only with the patch deployment to the production environment, we have also automated the test and approve process. So you can choose this option and you can put it up like 5 days. So once the patches are successfully deployed in your test environment, after 5 days, the patches will be automatically approved to your production environment. So using this automation process, you don't need to manually approve each and every patch. So your administrator can verify the machines or they can analyze the machine for 5 days. And if there is no issue, you can very well go ahead and approve the patches automatically. Or if you feel that a patch is causing a problem, you can very well go ahead and decline that patch, where those patches will not be pushed to the production environment. So I've already created a test and approve task here, and I'm going to show you how it exactly looks like or how it works. So here you can find one which I've created for Windows 10 group, which gives you more information on what operating system I've chosen and what type of applications I've chosen, whether it's a critical, important, or moderate. All these information can be seen over here. And you can also find how many patches are not approved. And it clearly tells you that these patches are yet to be downloaded. And if it was not deployed, we need to check why it was not deployed. If there's going to be any error, we'll also put up those information over here, which will also be available. So this is what exact view of test and approve. So based on my objective, I've installed a server application in the environment. And the next part is installing an agent. And I've installed the agent. I've now scanned my machine, identified the missing patches, tested those patches in my pilot environment. And now I should push those patches to the production environment. So pushing up a patch to the production environment is a way simpler task. So we have two ways to do it. So either you can go with a manual deployment. You can just come here to the missing patches view. You can choose the updates which you wish to deploy, and you can click on install patch, which will automatically choose the required target machine. So it's way simpler, as you can see. Just choose the patches which you need to deploy, and automatically it will choose the target machines. And the only thing you need to do is just click on deploy. So based on this, the patches will be pushed to the production environment. But remember about the objective which we spoke earlier, that is not the major objective, because I need to reduce the work of the administrator. I need to make this task more automated. So here is where the automated patch deployment comes into picture. So when it comes to the automated patch deployment over here, this is the actual architecture. So right from synchronizing the patches, scanning all the machines, downloading the patches, deploying it to the production environment, generating a report and sharing it with the customers, all these tasks are automated. So nothing is manual over here. So the only thing you need to do is just create an automated patch deployment task. And once you create an automated patch deployment task, that's it. From the day creation, automatically on a daily basis or a weekly or a monthly, whenever you put up a deployment policy, on those days, those machines will be scanned automatically. It will be deployed, and those reports will be shared to your email address on an hourly basis. So this is how the architecture works for patch management. And here with the automated patch deployment task, I can very well go ahead and create the task for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And I can even choose the updates I need. Whether I wish to deploy patches only to a specific or a critical environment, I can very well go ahead and choose it. Or if I need patches to get deployed only to rollups, so rollup updates should be installed in my environment. I don't want service packs to be installed. I can even choose those information over here. I do have an option to deploy only specific application. I need only Java updates to be deployed in my environment. I can very well go ahead and do that over here. And you also find other updates, like even third-party updates can be managed simultaneously in the same task. So I can just come up here, you can choose these options, and you can deploy. And I would like to let you know, we've even got support for Windows Defender antivirus updates. So you can very well use this option for the definition update. And we also support McAfee Virus Scan Enterprise support, and Microsoft Forefront is also supported as of now. So you can very well make use of these options to deploy the patches. And the same thing, the deployment policy, I'm going to choose by when the patches should get deployed based on my objective. So here I can choose, the policies I've created. I can create n number of policies based on my requirements. There is no limit for it. And the important part here is choosing up the target machines. So whether I wish to deploy patches to a specific remote office or to a domain or to an IP address or an IP range or to a specific operating system, everything I can choose here. I'm just going to choose a New York site which I want the patches to get deployed, and I can create n number of filters based on my requirement. If I have already created a group in my AD domain, I can even choose those information. Or if I wish to deploy patches to a specific OU, I can even choose those information over here, which is also possible. I can even deploy based on the operating system and machine type. And this is what the important part I was talking about. Not only with the deployment, we even help you with the reporting part when it comes to the automated patch deployment. So we just use this option to share the reports on an hourly basis with the report format you need, whether you need it on a PDF or CSV or XLS format. We will just choose, you can choose these information, so the reports will be shared during the task processing itself. So you don't need to wait till the task gets completed. Automatically an email will be sent to you. So all these processes are automated when it comes to the deployment. So it's always, we recommend our customers to go with the automated patch deployment, which will help you in reducing the job of an administrator. So here we have created the automated patch deployment task. So let's go ahead and have a check of the task which we have created. So which is a New York site. So here it gives you a detailed information about how many patches are successfully deployed in the production environment. You can find a detailed report in it. How many patches are missing, how many yet to apply, all those information will be available. And if you need this as a report, you can even come up here and you can fetch this as a report, which is another easy way. Or if you wish to modify the same task, you want to change the policy, or if you want to use the same task without the target. I'm comfortable with this task, whatever I've chosen. I don't want to choose the application and details again. I can very well use the same task over here, and I can even get a system view. How many machines I've chosen, how many patches are deployed, all those information will be available. You can even check. You might wonder why these machines didn't get any patch, because these machines are not up and running. So you'll find an absolute information over here. So with this, you'll be able to get a clear information of why this deployment doesn't happen. And even you find how many patches been failed to download. What is the issue? Whether these sites have been blocked where it cannot be reached, those information will be very well available over here. So this is how the automate patch deployment task works over here. So if you guys come across any questions with this, please use the chat option to chat with our expert team. So they will very well help you in managing these information. And I would also like to let you know, if you like to make any changes, for an example, if you've created this task and you don't want those patches to get deployed to those environments, just immediately, if you need to suspend it, you can very well come up over here and you can suspend the task, which will not allow the task to deploy the patches to the client environment, which is going to be a more of easier way. So based on my objective, I've completed till the automate patch deployment task. And let's get into the manual way of deploying critical patches. So I've seen few customers who have come up with a scenario where whenever a critical patch comes in, we cannot go with the automate patch deployment. We just want to deploy those patches immediately to the production environment. So for that, we have got these options over here, like a critical vulnerability. We always listen to our customers when it comes to any type of feature request. So whenever any feature request comes in, we will work on those feature requests very closely. We'll collect more known cases, we'll collect more information from our customers to work on it, and we'll deliver it on the time we promise. So that's how we got this critical vulnerability feature for our customers, where you don't need to go with the manual deployment. Just come up here, any critical patches, a 0-day critical patch or a meltdown or a Spectre patch, you can just come up over here. You'll find all those missing patches here. You can just choose these critical patches and you can just deploy to the environment. So in this way, you'd be able to manage things in a more simplest and easiest way. So you don't need to worry about, okay, which patches are required, which is a Spectre patch. You don't need to do a search. So you can just come up here, choose these patches, and it can be deployed to the production environment. Even you'll get a detailed report about it. And if you need a detailed view of how many patches are missing in your environment with which machine, you can very well come up to the detail view here, and you can get all the information, how many patches are successfully installed, what's the current status of it, whether it's been approved or not approved, whether it's a moderate patch or a critical patch. All those information will be available here. And I was talking about the decline patch option. So if you feel a specific patch is creating a lot of issue, no need to worry about that. You can just come up over here. You can choose those target machines, whether you need it for the entire group or to a specific user group, you need to decline those patches. You can choose it here, and you can come up with an option which update you wish to decline, whether I need to decline a specific patch or I wish to decline an entire application or the vendor. I can choose all those information over here. So using up this, it's going to help you out in decline the patches based on your requirement, which is a more simplest way. And we have also got a very renovated dashboard for you. So you can find how many patches are available. So you can find upload patches. We've got another option. We'll also discuss about that later. So here it gives you a clear information of what the product can do. Any new feature comes in, we'll put it up over here in the dashboard, and it gives you a clear vision of how many machines has the patch deployment failure, how many unapproved patches are there, what is the current network status, how many installed patches, how many missing patches, how many machines are highly vulnerable. I would also like to let you know that we have launched another product called Vulnerability Manager Plus. So using up that product, you'll be able to identify the vulnerability in your environment, and you can deploy those vulnerabilities using up the product itself. And I would also like to let you know that we are adding up the vulnerability module to Desktop Central from next month. So it's going to be the same of patch management. You'll find another vulnerability module in Desktop Central. So using up that, you'll be able to identify all the vulnerabilities, and you can even clear those vulnerabilities using up this product, which I believe a great initiative took by the team to add this information to the console. And we'll also update any security news which comes in. As you can see, yesterday we have released the patches, Patch Tuesday. So we have updated those information, how many patches have been released, what are all the critical patches. All those information will be very well available over here, where you can use it for your reference. And moving up with the next important part here, which is the highly vulnerable environment. So here comes the exact information most of the customers looking for. How I'll know that my environment is healthy. Using a patch solution, I would like to know that how healthy my environment is. So using up this option, you'd be able to know how many machines are highly vulnerable, how many machines are critical. So you can just come up over here. If the machines are highly vulnerable, you can just choose it, and you can deploy patches to the production environment. So you'll find 4 critical and 1 important patch, which can be identified from here. And you'll also find another option, system requiring reboot. So when it comes to system requiring reboot, what is this and how it exactly works? Let's go with an example here. You'd like to deploy the patches to the production environment, and there might be some issues with the production environment users where they don't want to do a reboot on their working hours. And when they go home, they just take the laptop and they won't come back and for 2 or 3 days, and then they'll come back after 3 or 4 days. So by that time, the machine will not be rebooted. It will be still on. So in those cases, we take those data and we share it over here. So you'll be able to know how many machines requires a reboot, and you can even do a reboot from this console itself, either putting up in a restart or putting up in a hibernate mode, a reboot. All those options are possible using the Desktop Central console. And moving up with the next important part here, which is the deployment. As you have all seen, the automated patch deployment, test and approve. The last important part is disabling the automated updates. So no need to worry about the Windows updates. I've seen most of the customers that they come up with an issue stating that, you know what, Windows update is doing an update in an unknown time and the users are getting affected because of that. So we worked on this and we got the Windows Update Disable feature for you. So you can just deploy a patch to the environment. So automatically that will make changes to the registry and it will disable the automated updates. Not only with Windows automated updates, we have a lot of disable automated updates option available for Java, for Adobe, and for Chrome. All those updates are available, so you can very well make use of those features too when it comes to this option. At last, we've got an important part here, which is reports. So let's go with an option over here. I want to know like how many machines are highly vulnerable. I need a type of graph. So I can very well come up here. I will get a detailed graph of how many machines are highly vulnerable. I can even take this as a report and I can share it with my subordinates. So where they will come to know, okay, these many machines are highly vulnerable and I need to deploy the patches immediately. So with this option, you'll get a clear information about your environment. Not only with this, we have this same report which can be automated using up this process. So you can very well come up here and you can create the reports based on your requirement. So here under Reports tab, we have an option called Schedule Reports, Add Schedule Reports, and you can come up to the patch reports. So I want to know how many patches are deployed to my environment. So I can go with a detailed patch summary. I can choose the deployment status, and I can choose it equal. and I can choose installed, and I do have like multiple options: reboot pending, failed, and I can even choose a deployment date, by which date I need. Deployment date is either today or by yesterday or which week, which month. I can choose all those information over here, which is going to be a more of easier process, which will help you to manage things. And we also help you with the PDF, which format you need, whether those reports to be sent to multiple email addresses, we can even put up that. Or if you need this report to be sent on a daily basis, a weekly, or a monthly, you can choose all these information with this process. Hope I've covered all the important parts when it comes to the patch management. And if you guys come across any questions, please use the chat option to chat with our expert team. So let's get back to the presentation for scenarios and solutions. So the last final part which we are talking about is this is my last objective for the day. So deployment patches during the non-office hours. So based on my objective, I've tested the patches, deployed to the production environment, got the reports. But I do have one objective where I want to deploy the patches only during a specific interval, and I want to turn on the machine and then do a deployment, and I would like to do a force reboot on a specific time. So the reboot should happen only by Monday from 6 to 7. So I want to come up with those options. So with Desktop Central, as I've told you about the new features at the beginning, we have got these features available in the deployment policy, which we have newly created. And the build which I'm in is 408, so which was released 2 days back. So you guys will not find these features. The deployment policy reboot feature will not be available. In the sense, you won't find a specific time to reboot the window. Those features will not be available. But you can very well contact our team once this build is official, it's been released. We'll be sharing those information to you. So here under the deployment schedule, I'm going to choose by when the patches should get deployed to the production environment. As I told you earlier, customers are really important for us, and we always listen to our customers' feedback. So based on that feedback, they have requested for a patch window. So based on patch Tuesday, they need a window. So we have got a patch Tuesday window over here. If you want to deploy the patches on the same week when the patches are released, you can very well use this window. And the patch week next week will be considered as a first week over here. So using up this part, you'd be able to choose which week you need and what time you need. You can choose all those information or the day or a specific deployment window. I want this deployment window to happen on multiple days. I want to try this deployment on multiple times, like Monday, again on Tuesday, or even on Tuesday I need to try like twice. I can add multiple schedules over here, which is quite possible. And automatically turn on machines during the deployment. So if certain machines are turned off, using up the wake on LAN feature, I can turn on these machines and I can deploy the patches. And here comes the important part: notify the users about deployment. So during the deployment, I could very well go ahead and notify the user, stating that I can put up a remark here: hey, hi, you have a deployment which is going to happen now. So please ensure you save all your details, or there's going to be happening in your background and you don't need to worry about it. Or if you're quite concerned that this is going to cause some issues or the user will get disturbed because of this activity, you can even provide an option to postpone the deployment and do a forced deployment after 2, 3, or 5 days whenever you need. So you can even put up this option. Here is where a large improvement we have done in the latest build. So what normally used to happen is the Desktop Central customers will know that you'll find only the force reboot option and the postpone reboot. So what will happen is, same as notification, a pop-up will come in front of the screen where either you can reboot immediately or you can do a postpone for 4 hours or 6 hours, and a force reboot will happen after 2 or 3 days. But here we have got an option for force reboot itself, You can do a reboot immediately after the deployment, within the deployment window itself. Or in the first reboot, I don't want the reboot to happen immediately. I want it to happen only on Monday, or I want it to happen only on Friday when the users are leaving to like out of their shift. I can put up a time frame. So by 6 to 7, this reboot should happen for all the machines available in that task, the machine which requires a reboot. So based on this, I can add multiple reboot windows. So if the user is not available on Friday, if we cannot reach him, if he is available on Monday, try to reboot his machine. I can very well put up that option over here. Based on that, the reboot will happen. And we also have an option, immediately reboot system when it is next active. Let's make up in this way. I'm just leaving out Office and I put my machine in hibernate mode, where in hibernate mode will not be able to turn on those machines. So whenever the user comes on Monday, if he turns on his machine, automatically a reboot will be initiated. And the same way you can even provide access to users to skip the reboot, which is also possible. If you have, and the same thing applies even to shutdown. And we've also got another important option over here under postpone reboot, which is like show shutdown prompt for days, like how many days you need, and then for how many prompt windows should be available. Auto shutdown, if the above window times out for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can even put up this option. And one of the important part which customers were asking is whether you want for 15 minutes, 1 hour, how many postpone intervals you should give them. You can even define this. You can even put up a time, which is also possible. A lot of improvement comes up with the specific part. So here with this important part here, where we can also organize this entire thing and it can be added up to the email address and it can be managed. So taking you back to the presentation, and this is how the reboot window looks like. And we have a very well revamped this, and it's going to be like altogether different when it comes to the newer build versions. So here comes the scenarios and solution. I experienced a lot of difficulties deploying Java 6 and 7 updates to my machines. So will Desktop Central help me to tackle this issue? Yes. So recently, a lot of changes have been done when it comes to Java patch management. So what we've done here is we have got this as a feature under upload patches. So you can just come up with the option over here. You can download those patches manually, and you can come up to the patches, supported patches view. So you can very well come up here over the download patches, and you'll find the options here, upload patch. You can choose the patch and you can upload it. So you don't need to manually download it, rename it, and then install those patches. Just come up here, choose it, and upload those patches. Automatically it's done. So where those patches will be managed more efficiently. So in my organization, they wish to deploy patches based on Patch Tuesday. How can we accomplish it using Desktop Central? As we have seen earlier, we have got a separate window for Patch Tuesday. So based on this, we can very well deploy the patches on Patch Tuesday week or the upcoming weeks. It is really hard to manually deploy feature packs to all the client machines. How to automate the feature pack deployment? So in Automate Patch Deployment task, we have also got a provision for deploying feature packs automatically. So you can very well make use of that option. How can I install an agent to SUSE machines? And again, it's a very simple process. You can just come up to the admin tab and you'll find agent settings, and you can add the credentials over here for Linux. So if those machines are part of domain, you can even push those agents from the console, or you can even manually install the agents on those client machines. I have some legacy application for a business that only run on older Java versions. How can I disable the Java updates? So to disable the Java updates, we have two ways. While creating up a task, I can very well choose what type of updates I wish to deploy. So here under automate patch deployment task, I can very well go ahead and create a task here. I can choose what type of updates I need. I can only choose a specific application. So I can exclude it. Or another simple way is we spoke about the decline patch. You can just come up here and you can decline it for the groups you need. Our business applications misbehave occasionally, and I suspect the recent patch deployment could be the cause. What should I do? So here is where we exactly suggest our customers to test the patches before deploying to the production environment. We've also got a rollback option for you, so you can very well choose that option and you can roll back the patches. While deploying the patches, I came across below errors on multiple clients. How to get this fixed? Offers update error, unknown error code, fatal error during installation. So for all these error messages, we have come up with a detailed knowledge base. So it gives you a step-by-step process. What is the exact issue? This is not because of the product issue. Most of the time, the vendor used to come up with these type of error messages. So we just collect these information and we share it with you. So it might be a problem where the application could have got corrupted or an invalid update could be provided to those environments. So these type of issues might come up. If you feel that this issue is creating a lot of trouble, please do reach us with logs and we'll be happy to help you out with that. What is the average turnaround for patches to be updated by Desktop Central? So when it comes to a security update, we'll support it for 6 hours from the release time, and a non-security update will be available within 12 hours of time. How much disk space does a distribution server need to have to catch patches? It's again a bit tricky question. So when it comes to this specific part, what exactly happens here is, imagine I have a remote office, I have a distribution server placed there, and I have 1,000 machines. All the 1,000 machines are Windows 7 and Windows 10. I'm not going to have any problem. I'm not going to download multiple patches to my distribution server. Imagine I have multiple or different flavors of operating system, Windows, Mac, Linux, or different flavors in it. Then it's going to consume a lot of space. I could see the difference in the patches discovered by DC against WSUS. Why? It's because Windows updates will show even the superseded patches where we feel that it is not required for an environment. Because if a patch is superseded, we've already got the new patch available in the environment, so it's okay to deploy only the new patches. And when it comes to WSUS, they even show up the driver updates, where in Desktop Central, we are working on driver updates and we are in the final stages, and we'll start supporting driver updates from third quarter end. How failed patches are handled in test and approve. So for an example, if a machine requires 20 patches and 15 patches are installed in an environment, those patches will be still approved to the production environment. It is not an issue with the patch. It could be a problem with the environment. So we need to check why the deployment was a failure. So if you can share the appropriate agent logs with us, we could very well help you out with it. I completely rely on Desktop Central for patch management for both operating system and third-party application. Is that a way to disable automated updates of third-party applications like Adobe Java? Yes, as we have seen earlier, you can just go to the disable automated updates and you can disable the updates for these applications. So here comes the end of the patch management webinar. I would request you to kindly rate us on the webinar presentation as well as about the presenter. And you can very well share like from 1 to 5, where 5 is the best. And you can also spread a word about the webinar or the product under Facebook, LinkedIn, or you can even go ahead and you can put up a tweet, which is also possible with this hashtag. And our next training schedule will be on software deployment, which is going to happen on June 19th. And our EMS World Tour, so our seminar, which is happening in US, which happened today and tomorrow. So we also have the workshop, which is going to happen on 2nd July, 4th July, and 3rd July for Singapore, Indonesia, and South Africa. You can also find all these information in our website. And if you need a personalized demo for Desktop Central, Patch Manager Plus, Patch Connect Plus, or Vulnerability Management, you can variable users option, and you can inform our technicians or chat technicians, and they will help you to schedule up a demo. Thank you so much again for joining the webinar in your busy schedule. You guys have a wonderful day.